exciting for me to come early and to see everyone who serves every Sunday morning here. The choir, the people in the sound booth, the people who set up our communion table, and so on the list goes. So thank you, all of you, for all that you have done. Can you imagine receiving 2,000 letters each day, each with a request for money? Percy Ross was a multi-millionaire from the Midwest who died in 2001 at the age of 84. If his name sounds at all familiar to you, it's because he authored a newspaper column called Thanks a Million. It eventually became a syndicated radio show running on over 400 radio stations. Well, while he was alive, Percy Ross sought to dispose of his personal fortune. It took him nearly 60 years to accumulate. He did so by granting requests of people with legitimate needs. It was reported that he gave away an estimated $20 to $30 million over a period of 17 years. He almost always granted funds in amounts less than $1,000, and usually to about 150 people a week. As we can imagine, he also turned down many people's requests. He invited his readers to write to him with requests for money that would not just help the reader, but that would help others as well. Percy Ross stated, "I don't give to self-centered individuals or causes. I want to know how the fulfillment of your request will help others as well as yourself." It's also easier to ask for help, I think, if you feel like you're serving a worthy cause, something bigger than just yourself. Well, here's one example of a request that Mr. Ross granted. The request read, "Dear Mr. Ross, I'm imprisoned in Arkansas and have been writing a book about the effectiveness of punishment and the social reaction to crime. I'm doing everything in my power to better myself while incarcerated. I've alienated my family and my friends. That's my past, though, not my future. What I would like most is a good dictionary to help me in my writing. Believe it or not, this would be the most wonderful asset in the world right now to me, next to freedom." Well, Mr. Ross sent him a dictionary and wrote, "You've been faced with a bad situation and turned it into a positive experience. More power to you. When your book gets published, I'd like to buy a copy. And good luck." You know, I hear this story and I'm forced to contemplate what I would ask for. I'm not sure that I'd come up with a good answer. Perhaps you can come up with an answer for yourself. The story of the prisoner requesting a dictionary connects with our scripture and leads us to wonder, for what would we ask Jesus? We may have been startled to hear the ambitious request from James and John, who asked Jesus for prearranged, favored, and privileged seating. They wanted to be seated right up front, one at Jesus' left hand, the other at Jesus' right hand, when Jesus came into his glory. Pretty much as close as they could have been without sitting right on Jesus' lap. In addition, they introduced their request with this statement: "Jesus, we'd like you to do for us whatever we ask of you." Well, their request was a reflection of their world's culture, which resembles our own culture. Greatness measured by prestige, wealth, power. Jesus, though, teaches another way. The Gospel of Mark is the gospel that lays things on the line more than the other three gospels do. In a gospel that is the shortest of the four, Mark presents a Jesus who has to tell his followers who he is and what his mission is about more often than the other three gospels combined. When we read the section of scripture immediately preceding James and John's ambitious request, we find that Jesus had just told his 12 disciples that he and they were on their way to Jerusalem, where Jesus would drink the cup of suffering and be baptized into the waters of death. And then after 3 days would rise again. This was the third time in the Gospel of Mark Jesus had told about his suffering and death. Jesus was facing death, and James and John were asking for prestige and greatness. Were they listening at all? Well, Jesus needed to say to them, "You just don't know what you're asking." And so Jesus repeats the words again, and this time James and John respond, Sure, I'll be glad to serve. I can drink the cup. I will be baptized. I am able." Well, all 12 of the disciples were dreaming about a time when Jesus might win out over his opponents. Clearly, they believed in Jesus and placed their confidence in his leadership. And they wanted to be right there with him, celebrating. But they skipped the part about the suffering and death. We note, however, that Jesus does not rebuke them. They have no way of comprehending the suffering Jesus and they themselves will endure because of being a follower of the Christ. Mark wants us to understand that the disciples were not paragons of virtue, but very ordinary people just like you and me. This passage helps us to see the disciples' humanity, but it also helps us to see that we are like the disciples. So when we recognize the self-ambition of the disciples, we are enabled to recognize our own self-ambition, our own quest for greatness. How do we measure greatness? Well, our world tends to define greatness in terms of power and privilege, money, prestige. The importance of a person is often measured by external markers: the house they own, the car they drive, the ostentatious nature of their lifestyle. We are impressed by the visible achievements of people, their prestigious honors and academic degrees, the importance of their profession, and sometimes even the accomplishments of their children. But when Jesus speaks of greatness, he inevitably links it with servanthood. As he said to James and John, that which makes us great is not our ability to rule over others, but rather our ability to invest ourselves for the welfare of others. Jesus speaks of a better way. Let's look at some of the challenges of servanthood. You know, servanthood requires faithfulness. Thousands of small, sometimes tedious steps. Very little is accomplished overnight, and some things never get done or finished. While there will be pleasantries along the way, we will journey through things that are very difficult and that demand prayer, mindfulness, help others in our service, or are we serving so we ourselves feel and look good? Servanthood also touches on our insecurities. We realize we will probably have little or no control over how a situation turns out, or whether what we do will be effective in changing another person's life. And so then doubt and hesitation rise within us. And then, if we are paying attention, we are confronted with the ultimate sovereignty of God. Do we trust in the ways of the world, including our own limited power? Or do we trust in God's ultimate power? Are we seeking to serve so that our desired outcome becomes reality? Or are we willing to surrender what we think would work to God's ways? It is that ultimate sovereignty of God that is uplifted in the portion of Job that was read for us earlier. Some of the most profound questioning is found in the book of Job. We hear words that all of us might have asked in the past or might be asking today. Where is God when I hurt and I grieve? Why doesn't God speak to me? I have sought to live my life in a Christian way. Why doesn't God release me from my suffering? Why doesn't God do something to intervene? To briefly review the story of Job, Job was a servant of God. He had sought to live a blameless life. And then tragedy strikes, for all 10 of his children died when they were adults. Yet he did not blame God. In the midst of his intense grieving, he was afflicted with sores all over his body. And while he complained, yet he did not blame God. His friends tried to blame Job's sinfulness for his misfortunes, and thus it felt like Job was alienated not only from God, but also from his friends. For in all this, God seems to be absent. There is no word from God, no consolation, no intervention, and Job objects. Well, out of the whirlwind, finally comes God's voice. Job expects God to exonerate him at last. But has Job ever taken aback? God does not offer comforting words, but instead sternly questions Job, asking how Job thinks he has the right to challenge divine providence. Job, what is your place in all the mystery that I, God, have created? Where were you, Job, when I laid the foundations for the earth? In further chapters, Job gradually comes to see his rightful place within God's creation, and he surrenders to the sovereignty of God. God is in charge, and Job's purpose is to continue to serve God and others. Well, let's take that teaching about God's sovereignty and return to the gospel lesson. Note that when Jesus has the discussion with James and John, Jesus claims it is not for him to grant who sits where in glory. In rather disguised language, Jesus says that decision is for those for whom it has been prepared. This is what we call a circumlocution by which Jews spoke of God without naming God or Yahweh, which was forbidden. It is a way for Jesus to say, it is God's place, not mine, to assign what happens in the future. words, Jesus surrenders to God, and the disciples are to do the same. Servanthood, then, is an outgrowth of our trust in God's sovereignty and ultimate power. Even though now, as we serve, we might not be able to see or understand how, but we trust God will use our service to benefit others. Servanthood requires surrendering, but surrendering does not equal defeat. Surrendering is actually liberation. When we commit to servanthood, we become free from competition, from grasping for more, and we become free to being an invisible source of grace in the world. You know, we've all heard many messages about servanthood before. And we consider examples of people like Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., on the list goes. And while those heavyweights inspire us, their examples sometimes seem far from our reach. So think rather of everyday people who inspire you with their servanthood. We can offer our encouragement to each other and to others by noticing servants around us and by expressing gratitude for their and each other's servanthood. As I thought about servanthood in this past week, I started to notice it more and more in the everyday people I came in contact with. Some examples are the coaches of our 7-year-old grandson's soccer team. They make soccer not as much about competition as being about good conduct, doing one's best, learning skills, and teamwork. And the coaches are out there on the field with the kids, offering positive suggestions and high fives no matter how the game is going. Another example of servanthood is the number of new people who are running for political office, as well as those who desire to serve another term. I'm always amazed that anybody wants to run for political office. Sure, some people might be accused of using political office as a stepping stone to something more grandiose or a power game, but I am truly inspired by those who want to serve the public and believe they have effective ways of bringing about change. So what examples of servanthood have you observed this week? Well, whatever they were, I hope they encourage you. Look for servants, for they're all around us. When we need an antidote to cynicism and negativity, both so prevalent in our world today, turn again to becoming a servant. Servanthood is an expression of our soul's purpose. It is an adventure in faith, for we are here to serve God. And likewise, being involved in service is a way of choosing life over apathy. Instead of shrugging our shoulders and claiming that whatever we might do could not possibly be enough to really affect things, we dig in again to pursue the call of Jesus to serve.